It is a Wednesday morning in March, and you are lying on a creeper under a 2022 sedan in Bay 4 of a dealership service centre in Columbus, Ohio. And you are looking at something that should not be there. You are 31 years old. You have been a certified automotive technician for 9 years. You have seen bad welds, worn rotors, oil leaks that mechanics 3 shops over missed. You know what failure looks like before it announces itself. What you are looking at right now is not a worn part. It is not a manufacturing defect in the traditional sense. It is a structural decision, a bracket, a placement, a tolerance that someone approved, someone signed off on, someone sent down the line to be replicated in 500,000 vehicles currently sitting in driveways across the country. You already know what this means. You just need another 40 seconds to decide whether you are the person who says it out loud. You grew up in Reynoldsburg, Ohio. Your father ran a small independent shop out of a 2-bay garage behind your house. You learned to read a torque spec before you learned to read a topographic map. You were not handed anything. You tested for your ASE certifications one by one, nights and weekends, while working full-time. You passed all 8 on the first attempt. You have a reputation at this dealership for being the technician who finds what other technicians miss. That reputation is the reason the service manager routes the unusual jobs to Bay 4. That reputation is the reason you are under this particular car on this particular Wednesday. The customer came in for a routine brake inspection and a noise complaint, a low intermittent grinding from the rear left. You have heard this complaint before. You diagnosed it in under 20 minutes once. Today it took you 11 minutes. Not because the problem was obvious, but because what you found was something different. The brake noise was real. The brake noise was also not the problem. What you found behind the brake assembly was a fuel line routing bracket, whose attachment point sits directly adjacent to a section of the subframe that flexes under specific load conditions. At highway speed, on road surfaces with lateral vibration, the kind you get on 60% of American interstates, the bracket contacts the subframe at a rate of roughly 2 to 3 times per second. Over time, over miles, the fuel line wears. Not immediately, not in the first year, but by years 2 and 3, under normal driving conditions, the wear is enough to produce a microfracture. A microfracture in a fuel line near a heat source at highway speed is not a maintenance issue. It is a fire. You know this because you are lying under a car with 114,000 miles on it, and the fuel line on this car right now has already started to fray. This car is a 2022 model, which means this design was approved in 2019, possibly 2018, which means someone in an engineering review looked at this routing configuration and made a decision. The decision was not malicious. You understand this even now. The decision was a tolerance call, a judgment that the clearance between the bracket and the subframe was sufficient. That under normal operating conditions, contact would not occur at a meaningful frequency. That the wear rate, modelled against projected mileage, fell within acceptable parameters. Acceptable parameters are a document. They are a spreadsheet. They are not a fuel line at 114,000 miles on an Ohio interstate in February. You know, because you have worked dealership service for 6 years, that warranty claims data comes back to manufacturers. You know that field reports from technicians are logged, categorised, and reviewed by product quality teams. You pull the service history on this vehicle before you call the service manager. You search the repair order database for similar complaints on the same model year. You find 7 of them. Fuel odour complaints. 1 unexplained engine compartment fire, ruled electrical by the insurance adjuster. 2 brake noise complaints with no finding, meaning a technician looked and did not look far enough. 7 cases in 1 regional dealership network's database. You sit with that number. You know what it means when you multiply it outward. There was a technician at a dealership in Phoenix who filed an internal concern report on this same model 14 months ago. You will find this out later. You will find out that the report was reviewed, classified as insufficient evidence for escalation, and closed. The technician who filed it was let go 4 months later in a staffing reduction. You will never be able to prove those 2 things are connected. Neither can he. You get out from under the car. You stand in Bay 4 and you do not move for a moment. The first thought is, tell the service manager. You walk it through. You tell the service manager. He calls the manufacturer's regional rep. the regional rep opens a product concern ticket, and the ticket enters a review process that takes, on average, 90 to 120 days. During those 90 to 120 days, 500,000 cars continue to accumulate miles. Some of them are already past the threshold you are estimating. You do not know which ones. The second thought is, call NHTSA directly. You look up the process on your phone while still standing in Bay 4. A consumer or technician complaint filed with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is reviewed, triaged, and assigned to a compliance team. If sufficient complaints exist, they open a preliminary evaluation. A preliminary evaluation becomes an engineering analysis. An engineering analysis, if it produces findings, becomes a recall recommendation. This process takes, on average, 6 to 18 months. You read that twice. 6 to 18 months. The third thought arrives quietly and you are not proud of it. And the third thought is, you are a 31-year-old dealership technician in Columbus, Ohio. You are not a lawyer. You are not an engineer. You are not a whistleblower in a film. You have a lease payment and a tools loan and a daughter in her first year of preschool. The manufacturer has a legal department. The manufacturer has a communications team. The manufacturer has 100 years of practice. At the distance between a field report and a recall announcement, you know what happened to the technician in Phoenix. You know all of this. You are still standing in Bay 4. The car is still on the lift. The fuel line is still fraying. You call the service manager. His name is Ron. He has managed this service centre for 11 years. He is a practical man. Not corrupt, not careless, but just practical in the specific way that people become after a decade of balancing repair order throughput against customer satisfaction scores. You walk him to Bay 4, you show him the bracket, you show him the wear pattern on the fuel line, you show him the service database results on your tablet, the 7 cases, the fire report, the 2 no findings. Ron looks at it for a long time. He does not dismiss you. You had expected dismissal. What you get instead is something worse. He looks at it the way a person looks at something they already half knew was there. He says, I need to call the regional rep. You say, Ron, there are 500,000 of these on the road. He looks at you. The fluorescent light in Bay 4 hums. The shop smells like gear oil and concrete dust and something faintly metallic. Like you have stood in this smell for 9 years. Right now you notice it, the way you notice a smell when you understand you will remember this moment. Ron picks up his phone. He calls the regional product quality line. He is on hold for 6 minutes. You stand next to him the entire time. When the rep picks up, Ron describes the finding. He reads out the VIN. He mentions the service database cases. The rep's voice is level and professional. He says he will open a product concern ticket and someone will follow up within 5 business days. Ron hangs up. He looks at you. You say, 5 business days. Ron says, that's the process. You go home that night and you type a detailed complaint into the NHTSA online portal. You include photographs. You include the service database case numbers. You include the VIN. And you submit it at 11:47 at night while your daughter is asleep in the next room and your hands are still faintly cold from the shop. The confirmation email arrives in 4 minutes. It has a case number. It tells you your complaint has been received and will be reviewed. You stare at that sentence for a long time. Here is what the timeline looks like from the outside. Your NHTSA complaint is filed in March. 5 additional technician complaints from other regions are filed over the following 6 weeks. The manufacturer's internal product quality team opens a formal engineering review in May, 61 days after your original dealership report. The engineering review concludes in August. The manufacturer issues a voluntary recall in September, 512,000 vehicles across 3 model years, requiring fuel line bracket replacement at no cost to the owner. Estimated repair time, 1 hour and 40 minutes per vehicle. Estimated total cost to the manufacturer, $640 million. During the 6 months between your filing and the recall announcement, 11 vehicle fires are reported to NHTSA in the affected model range. 4 result in total vehicle loss. 2 result in injuries. 1 results in the death of a 63-year-old woman in Pensacola, Florida, who was driving home from a Wednesday evening church service when her car caught fire on the interstate, on ramp. The fire investigators' report classifies the cause as undetermined. Her family hires an attorney. You are back in Bay 4 when the recall announcement goes public. You read it on your phone during your lunch break. The manufacturer's press release describes the recall as a proactive safety measure, identified through their ongoing quality monitoring process. You read that sentence the way you read the NHTSA confirmation email. For a long time, without moving. 3 months later, you are contacted by the attorney representing the family in Pensacola. You give a deposition. You answer every question directly. You bring the photographs. You bring the service database records. You bring the NHTSA case number and the timestamp that reads 11:47 at night in March. The manufacturer's attorney asks you, on the record, whether you can definitively establish that the vehicle involved in the Pensacola fire had the same defect you identified. You say, "I identified the defect in March. The recall was issued in September. She died in July." The attorney moves to the next question. Your answer sits in the transcript without commentary. Here is what a documentary will not tell you. No one in this story was a monster. The engineer who approved the tolerance did so using the data available at the time. The regional rep who took Ron's call followed the process exactly as it was designed. The product quality team that took 61 days to open a formal review was not slow by industry standards. Every step functioned as designed. The design built in the delay. The manufacturer did not cause the fire in Pensacola alone. NHTSA's review structure absorbed 6 months of incoming complaints before generating enough data to accelerate anything. The insurance adjuster who classified an earlier fire as electrical closed a file that could have been a data point. 7 dealership technicians before you saw the brake noise and stopped there. The system did not fail. The system produced exactly the outcome a 6 to 18-month review timeline produces when the thing being reviewed catches fire in month 4. And somewhere in Pensacola, there is a family sitting with a settlement that has a non-disclosure clause attached to it. Her name was Darlene. She was going home. She had no part in any of this.